Hello everybody, I'm TychoCelchuuu and welcome to a CoH2 shoutcast. We gotta turn off the fog of war if we want to see what is happening, and we have a match today between Jonovus maybe, as the Auster, and Puko as the Soviets. And they're on this this burnt out map, which reminds me a lot of the original Company of Heroes. It reminds me of, I can't remember the name of that map. It was like a 2v2 map. And I mostly remember, well, I remember it for a lot of reasons, but I also remember it because once we played a 2v2, me and Lollybo, who you may remember if you've been watching my channel for many years, we played a 2v2 in Company Heroes, and we got matched up against, I think, Dr. Horse and his teammate, Dr. Horse, who was the #1 ranked player at that time, and we won the game, presumably because his teammate sucked, and also they weren't playing at their full capacity, but that was like the proudest moment I've ever had in a team real-time strategy match. And we already have a doctrine chosen for Jonovus, the Mechanized Assault Doctrine. Very boring, very straightforward doctrine, but if you're going to pick it soon so you can start spamming these Assault Grenadiers. Seems to be Jonovus's idea. It's not a bad map for spamming these Assault Grenadiers. Lots of buildings and things that block line of sight, so you can get up real close and unload with the Assault Grenadiers' submachine guns. They're all facing in this direction. They find these shells very alluring. And yeah, so since my last shoutcast, Trump got elected president, so that's bad. And the world is going to end. But we have until January 20th when he takes office, so I'll try and get some videos out before then and then get hauled off to the concentration camp or whatever is going to happen. Pretty even split of resources right now. Both players have capped the fuels. The Germans taking the fuel in the north, Soviets taking the fuel in the south, and the only difference in capping order, it looks like, is that the Soviets have gone for the munitions after capping the fuel up here, or sorry, the Soviets went for the victory point after capping the fuel, but also tried to secure both munitions, whereas the German player is pushing more strenuously in the middle. It looks like these Assault Grenadiers not going to be able to get anything happening here, just trying to decap the munitions. Not really sure what the point is there. Maybe they're trying to, yeah, I'm not sure why they're hanging around so long in that fight. You're not going to win that thing. It is keeping the conscripts off the point, so I guess the idea is just to make sure they don't cap the munitions for as long as possible, but you're paying for it in manpower, and I'm not sure, you know. It keeps the conscripts off the point. It also keeps the conscripts tied up such that they're not on some other part of the map fighting, so it gives you a better chance of winning these sorts of fights, although that's clearly not happening. These Assault Grens pushed off, these Grenadiers not doing anything except hitting the engineers, but oh, holy shit, I really didn't expect that. He's managed to stick around long enough to capture the point, so I'm an idiot, and that's why he was there. I'm impressed. One of the reasons I wasn't expecting that is because you figure once the squad starts dropping low and it starts losing people out of the squad, the conscript can just hop out of the building and run straight up and get behind this yellow cover, because at that point they don't have as much to fear. Fewer people are shooting at them, so they're going to take less damage, and they have much more to gain. They can maybe wipe the squad or push it off, and they can also just get to the point and start capping it faster. So I was expecting the Soviet player to do that, but I expect that the Soviet player was probably busy microing down here, so that turns out to have been a good choice by the German player, making the right call. That what is making the noise over here? Fuck. Oh, I think it's that fire. Can I see the fire? Yeah, it's that fire. So probably German player thinking, you know, I'll see what I can do with these Assault Grenadiers, leave them there as long as possible, and he or she correctly realized that they would be able to stick around long enough. And these conscripts really not happy, so they hopped into this building, but there's no way they could have known these guys were over there because there was the sight blocking. And immediately after hopping in, I imagine he wanted to get the fuck out. Oh no, misclick. Oh, there you go, but gets that squad out. So it wants to hop out immediately, but this building turns out to provide pretty good cover. I'm actually surprised how well it's working. You would think these Assault Grenadiers up that close, and even these Grenadiers up that close, would start shredding them, just because when you're up that close you get super accuracy and you start really killing these people. But I guess that's just a fantastic building, and now once the Assault Grenadiers are in it, the Soviet player has to pull back. Soviet player probably wants to pull back anyways, just because the idea is to hang out of this munitions point and cap it. No reason to be more aggressive than that, and it looks like, I don't know, presumably the Soviets going to win, but this is such good cover that it's tough to know if even 3 conscripts focus firing on that squad, or on those 2 squads, is going to do too much damage for him. Oh, red cover on the retreat, not giving the conscripts any fun time. So the Soviet player is still more or less ahead in this game just because that slightly more aggressive capping seems to have paid off. The German player wasn't able to turn the slightly less aggressive capping into any sort of decisive battle victories. These conscripts getting pushed off north is good because now you can start recapping this thing. But in general, the Soviet player just a bit more control of the map. We see the 53 munition income versus the 21 munition income. This despite the fact that this munition point was capped by the Germans at one point. Nice retreat here, manages to micro that out. So the 53 versus 21 munitions and then 26 versus 20 fuel income. And the Germans actually down on VPs too. So things looking good for our Red Army player. Oh fuck, I'm recording at 30 frames per second. I was going to try and record at 60 frames per second just to see if my computer could handle it. I think it can because it's all a fancy computer now, and I think I've got the disk space. But sorry, this is only a 30 frames per second video, and it's only 1080p, so you're not getting 4K. I think I potentially could record at 4K because NVIDIA lets you do that like dynamic super resolution thing, which I used when I replayed the original Dishonored just the other week. And I think that lets you record at 4K, but I don't know if I have the disk space for that. We'll have to know. I record all my videos to the oldest hard drive in my computer, which is a 500 gig hard drive that I got like 7 years ago, I think, or more, maybe more when I first built this thing. No, it's more than 7 years. It's like 11 years. I think the hard drive is 11 years old. Is 11 years old long enough for a 500 gig hard drive to make sense? I don't know. Anyways, it's old and it hasn't failed yet, but I just use it for recording because at some point I assume it's going to fail. It's a mechanical hard drive. Poor Grenadiers just getting sent out to cap and running into the entire Soviet army. So we have a nice, really, I said nice, I don't know if it's nice. We just have a really static battle, all the fighting happening on the front lines, not a lot of flanking. We do, of course, have both players sending units to the north and the south and the middle, which is good. So it's not like they're just blobbing or anything like that, both players. This is the highest ranked auto match game going on, by the way. So both players, I assume, pretty good. And they're making sure to probe. I'm looking at the wrong part of the map. They're making sure to probe their opponent all over. And it just seems like the Germans slipping behind in terms of teching. We still only have, do we have the upgrade? No, we don't have the upgrade. We don't have anything. What is the fuel going to? Nothing. The fuel's not going towards anything. We have 97 fuel. Soviets, meanwhile, 0 teching. Because the combat engineer squads have just been out in the fight the entire time, and so I said players not blobbing. The Soviet player is sort of blobbing, but it does make sense because when you've got a map like this that's so sort of stretched out across this long front line, and you've got the territory captured all along it, you've got to expect that your opponent's going to do one of two things. They're going to move out in a blob for safety, or probably more likely they're going to move out and try and spread out and try and probe your defenses in all sorts of places and capture a lot of points. So one way you can respond to that is to spread out your own forces, get ready for them to probe, and when they start probing, you respond to them. That can be tough for a lot of reasons. Number one, you've got to manage all those fights simultaneously as they happen. And I mean, your opponent has to manage the fights simultaneously as they happen too, so it's not like that's a big deal. But, you know, it's a lot to keep track of. There's a chance you can lose a squad when you're not paying attention. Rest in peace. Fuel barrel. But the thing is, if your opponent moves out in a blob, you're pretty much, your front lines are going to get broken through wherever your opponent blob comes out. And if your opponent moves out piecemeal, that's the end of the game. Okay, yeah, so German player decided I'm far enough behind that I'm out of here. There goes my squad. That's the end. So I'll just finish that thought. Oh, look. That would have been... had the German player not GG'd out right then, he would have GG'd out 2 seconds later when this thing blew up. But yeah, if your opponent moves out in a big blob and you're sort of spread out all over, you're going to lose that fight wherever the blob is. And then, I mean, you can come back and reconvene around the blob, but that takes time. If you're defending in a big blob, then if your opponent probes here and you're up here, you won't be able to respond. But really, you wouldn't be able to respond if you just had one unit down here too. You just delay them for a bit. But if your opponent probes here, and that's where your blob is, which is what we saw with the German player, you'll immediately win that fight, maybe wipe the squad, or at least get it down really low, send it right back. And then your opponent's ability to probe the rest of your line is slightly lower. You can reposition the blob to wherever your opponent is, and you can sort of rove around the map trying to win each fight individually. So just because you control a lot of territory doesn't mean you need to defend it with all your units. Sometimes it makes sense as a defender to stay clumped up and try and win some decisive fights, because winning fights is what it's all about. And winning this fight right here with these... I love how the MP40s just like balance, on the ground, just on their magazine. And winning this fight here is what got the Soviet player the victory. So that was a nice, short, sweet match, and rest in peace, America.